What would be something cool that you'd like to do either with a driver or an iron that you haven't been able to because of limitations?
Yeah, I mean, like if I was to tell you that, then I could just be giving away secrets as well.
Hey, I'm here with Matt, product creator for TaylorMade. He specializes mainly in irons.
Mainly in irons.
But we're going to cover drivers today.
I got a little background there.
No, that's fine. So when was the first metal wood ever made by TaylorMade?
1979.
I'm glad we did that research ahead of time. You did anyway. But look at all these things on the table. You've got this amazing Fire Soul driver.
Classic.
That is classic. And then all the way up to some new stealth and some carbon fiber tech into this one. So talk about how these have changed over the years, anything that might be interesting to some golf nerds that don't know much about, maybe a little secret or two hidden in here, like an R7.
Oh man, there's so much to go through. Obviously, TaylorMade was founded on the Pittsburgh persimmon, the first metal wood to ever be created in 1979. So it's really in our DNA, right, to push the envelope from a driver perspective. And when you think about where we started from an all steel construction and being the first company to come out with that, to where we are today with stealth and what you see here with this carbon face, obviously titanium head construction, and the material advances that came through the evolution of metal woods. Obviously, things started with persimmon, then we talk about the advancement into steel, and then the big shift came with titanium, right? That allowed club makers to go larger from a club head side and keep that mass down. So really that ups the forgiveness. And then you get some face speed start to come into the conversation with titanium as materials can get thinner, and companies are better at manufacturing the different materials that break through. And then you get the influx of composite materials, and it really comes mostly through body panels, whether it be a crown or a sole. There are some different ones that they dabbled in faces, but nothing ever got close to where we are today with Stealth, which uses 60 layers of carbon fiber inside that face, which really allows us to be more efficient with the transfer of energy into the ball, delivering more distance, more forgiveness, and just, I mean, to think like coming from an R7, this was going to be your first movable weight technology, again, TaylorMade, into where we're at today. Obviously, there's so many steps in between. R9 with the invention of the FCT allows you to really change the loft and face angle on a driver. And then you go into sliding weights, right? SLDR was the first one to do that. You still see that today in the Stealth Plus, allowing you to go from the heel to the toe, get a draw or a fade bias. And then, of course, into the M family, which was the debut of carbon for us. We pushed the limits of titanium to where we just got as thin as we could on the crown, because there's so many manufacturing advances inside these that you don't see, driven by how thin you could go. And we actually at TaylorMade, are considered one of the most advanced titanium casting, have the most advanced titanium casting capabilities on the planet. Military grade, all of it, because of how thin we could go. And that's why we waited longer to go to carbon than some others, because we were still able to get more out of titanium than we could with how thick you had to make the carbon panels at the time.
You're better at that. Yeah, that's fair.
And then you bring M1 into the equation, and you get that first carbon panel, and how much the first M1, M2 really changed the game from a driver perspective. Everybody saw those gains, and then learning more and pushing the material boundaries as to where you get to the stealth concept here. And this was 20 years in the making. It literally took 20 years to develop this technology.
A lot of experience and wizardry in there.
Yeah.
So you move from the Fire Soul here, which was really made to be as big as it could be made at that time, but still have the walls thick enough where it wouldn't fail. And it wasn't designed for the ball speed in that regard, in the same capacity that we can manufacturing now. There was an attempt made to put some heavier weight low and in the further back in the club. Didn't go far enough back, or heavy enough, I'm sure, but it was the right attempt, but that was the manufacturing capability you had back then. Then you could start to make something that had some adjustability to it, but to do that, you had to use a ton of different weight in the wrong spots to try to make the screws actually adhere to the club head. So therefore, you could only make a head this big, and you had your challenges with ball speed that way. But because of the adjustability, and you can move the CG around quite a bit on this one, made for a really good driver for a lot of different people at the time. Then you crank yourself all the way up to the Stealth now, and 60 layers of carbon fiber. Why not 55 or 65, by the way?
60 is that sweet spot.
60 is the right one. He's the iron guy.
It just comes down to, well, really, with that, it came down to, you want the face to be as light as possible. So you don't want it to be thicker than it has to be, and there's durability thresholds associated with that. And there's actually all the different orientations for the different layers to be able to create variable face thickness. We still have that in here. We touched on the inverted cone piece and spreading out that COR area. That's still in the carbon face here as we've migrated into the carbon wood area. So really it takes those 60 plies to get to strength you need to keep things lightweight, but still push that and be at those COR limits.
Yeah, awesome. And then couple that with a little speed pocket in there. I know that's one of your favorite topics to talk about. The way you talk about it is different than descriptions I've heard so far. What's the speed pocket all about?
The speed pocket, essentially, and in the simplest terms, it's about protecting ball speed for mishits lower on the face. It allows the face to flex more. If you took that insert out right here, you could actually see inside the club head.
Right.
So this whole area of the face is completely disconnected, unsupported, free to move, and that's what allows us to get so much flexibility and ball speed out of these faces too. So it's really a forgiveness piece. Obviously, when it comes to the driver, we want to hit the ball as far as possible, and we want to hit it as consistently as possible. Having that level of forgiveness, whether it be through MOI, that's club head stability in this direction, or really expanding the sweet spot through technologies like the speed pocket, it all is designed to deliver the same thing. Hit as far as you can, as often as you can, as straight as you can. And that's where technologies like twist face come into play. We didn't even talk about twist face. That whole technology is just, it's a little bit like it's mind-blowing in terms of what you can do and anticipate how golfers are going to deliver the club head based on the impact location. But that's always, of course, in here and was part of the evolution to get where we are today.
Yeah. Question for you. Talk about this, irons or drivers, whatever you want. If money was no object, there were no real restrictions or limitations, I should say, on the manufacturing processes that you have now, what would be something cool that you'd like to do either with a driver or an iron that you haven't been able to because of limitations?
Yeah, I mean, like if I was to tell you that, then I could just be giving away secrets as we're working.
No one's watching
now. No, I certainly hope they are. Yeah, I don't know, man. If money's no object, I'd love to expand just and push the limits of material, and I'd probably want to incorporate some additional levels of personalization that don't necessarily exist. It wouldn't all be performance-based for me. I would want to make some things that are just more like engineering marvels than anything else.
Okay, pieces of art. All right. I would think, because I've asked that question to people before, taking away what would be super cool in this, I'm sure you wouldn't argue either, is if you had the Stealth Driver, but you had the capability to build the adjustability into it for each person who would use this, very individualistically, and then not have to put it on the outside, but make those adjustments on the inside. That kind of tech just doesn't exist right now, but it's going to someday. Make a few swings, watch how it's either motion capture or something's going to collect some data, and then poof, you get a driver that's built just for you. You want to do that?
Absolutely want to do that.
I want to go in 50-50. You do the rest of the work from here.
You're the idea man.
I'd like you to send me a check.
Oh,
you can start doing that.
I'd love, that's actually, you talk about the evolution of a driver, but really evolution of performance across all categories has been aided not just by the ball, but by the invention of launch monitors. Understanding how players deliver the club head are what allowed us to develop technologies like twist face. Without launch monitors, and face tracking specifically, we never would have been able to come up with that.
Oh, you need tech for all this.
And you got to understand, what the trends are, and it just allows you to go that much deeper in terms of how do you push the limits.
60 layers of carbon. Feels cool too. Thanks, Matt.
You are welcome, sir.
Start sending those checks whenever you want. Hang out here with Matt. We're going to watch a few more videos if you want. Stay on the channel. We're going to talk about irons in a similar way, hybrids, a ton of different TaylorMade stuff. So stay right here.